Hi everybody, and welcome to my kitchen. It's Mary Janet, and you're listening to a CD called Falcha. Falcha is Gaelic for welcome, so I want to welcome you all to my kitchen once again. And today we are going to be making porridge brown bread, which I make quite often. And it's going to be in real time, and we're going to stop and start the live stream. So this is going to be part 1 of 4 parts today. And I'll tell you a little bit more about the Falcha CD later when we get a chance to have a visit and a cup of tea. But right now, of course, whenever I'm doing these live streams, my husband gets out of the way. But people have been asking, well, who is this Cecil? So he's going to pop in here right now and say hello.
Hello. Enjoy. I know I do. Have a good day.
Well, there you go. That's as much as you're going to get out of him today. So hope everybody had a wonderful week. And I think spring is finally here. And we've had a pretty nice weather week. So that's really, really nice. So we're going to get right into this. We're just going to do the porridge part. And the porridge part, the recipe is on Tunes and Wooden Spoons. So it's going to be starting off with 3 cups of water in a pot, because you're going to make your porridge, because it's porridge bread. So here, three cups of water. 1 teaspoon of salt. And you bring that to a boil. I'm going to check. I hope everybody can hear me. Somebody was calling me on video and I said, okay, I probably did something wrong. So really hope that you can hear me. All right, let me know if you can't. So I just have the 3 cups of water in here, and I'm going to bring it to a boil. But I might as well tell you about that video. This series of Falcha CDs, they're put out by a neighboring community named Judic. In the Judic community, they have this Celtic Music Interpretive Center, and they've put together a whole line of these beautiful discs. And this one in particular is one of my favorite. It's kind of an easy listening. It's waltzes and airs played by the various fiddle players from all around Cape Breton and beyond. And they're just really, they're usually a cut from their own CD. So it's really masterfully done, really beautiful. And if you're looking for some good Celtic music, and you want to go to their site, it's Celtic Music Interpretive Center in Inverness County or whatever, and you'll find it on the web. And they have an online store. You can order whatever you want through there. So let me just check my messages, make sure. Oh my God, you guys are awesome. Okay, so I'm just gonna let this water come to a boil. And she's going to be old-fashioned and make the porridge. A lot of, I know when I used to work out west, and they'd have breakfast, and it was never called porridge. It was always called oatmeal. I only know it as porridge. So I have been kept really wonderfully busy with hearing from so many new friends from all over the place, and it's just so nice to spend that time and hearing different stories and listening to accounts of how they made the cookies or how they made the cinnamon rolls. And we've even gotten a few calls. People looked us up on 411 and had been reading the newspaper article that had been out. And it's just so nice to hear that there's so many people out there and baking, and the stores are running out of stuff. Not just because of what we're doing here, but basically people are home and people are baking, and the stores are low on flour and cinnamon and isn't it great? We're getting back to the basics. I was going to say, just before I started the 2 o'clock countdown, I got a really nice phone call, and I just thought that I would mention that phone call to everybody. Back in January, I lost a really close friend. I'm not going to cry because I'm awful soft-hearted. But anyway, her name was Marjorie, a beautiful lady. And I miss her. I miss her greatly, and as do many other people. And those people especially who miss her are her husband and her 5 children and her grandchildren. So I wanted to give a little shout out there to her children, one of which I was talking to before the show. And there's Teresa and Jessica and Kyle, Shelley, and Derek, and all of their children who have been baking along too. And it kind of reminds them of Marge. So I hope you are all having similar ideas, because I've been getting lots of stories about people. It's reminding them of baking with their grandmother, and just really touching stories like that. And some who wish that they had the chance to sit a little bit longer with their grandmother or grandfather and get more stories or learn how to cook this or that. So this is, my pot is boiling. So I'm going to add a cup and a third of rolled oats. 1 cup and a third. And this is what I use. There's quick oats, there's minute oats, The only one that I really do not like to bake with are those ones, the large flakes. No, not a fan of that for anything that I'm baking. They're probably good for something. So, okay, that returns to a boil fairly quickly. And I'm going to turn it down on low. And I'm going to set my timer. Just a second. I wasn't sure if it was 4 or 5 minutes. It's 5 minutes. Okay. I live by my timer. These days, I'm just, I forget things a lot. So, this past week, I've been just encouraged by all the cooking from different people, but especially some of the online cooking. And kudos to Mary Farrell and Annie Ganesh, who made just beautiful shortbread cookies. And the deputy mayor of Annie Ganesh. Is there any other mayors or deputy mayors out there? They should do one as well. Challenge. And the other person who is friend of our family is Andrea Beaton. And Andrea Beaton is just a phenomenal fiddle player. Just love her music. Actually, you were listening to her cut on falcha. I think that was her cut, that very first one. It's beautiful. But she was on Friday, and she was making her grandmother's recipe, apple cake. Oh, I love when there's a little story behind the recipe, and you know, you're keeping that person's memory alive. I just think that that's very, very special. And actually, Andrea is going to do that again next week. She's going to go online again from her page, just Andrea Beaton, and I'll always copy it to my page though, so that you'll have it there, just if you want that. But she's going to make these millionaire squares, or millionaire shortbread. The base of it, I think, is a shortbread, and then there's a layer. Oh my God, delicious! And the top, I think, is chocolate. So, and of course, then she plays the fiddle. Well, I don't have that, but people look forward to that. And so next week, there was a debate on in my family, and I've been getting lots of suggestions. What next? What's coming up next? Well, next Sunday, Easter Sunday, and one of the favorite things, especially my older grandchildren would love when I would make, they're called crispy crunch squares, and they're and easy, although you have to wait a while before you can actually taste them. So I have the vote came down last night from the grandkids out in Fort McMurray. Now the oldest is, I think he's 21. I should know that. But anyway, 21, and they all voted for me to make crispy crunch squares on Easter Sunday. So we're going to make that together, and you're going to need chocolate chips and butterscotch chips and Rice Krispies and peanut butter or wow butter and corn syrup. I think that's everything, and white sugar. Really simple to make. They make a ton. You can make them and go around on Easter Sunday evening and leave a little package from the Easter Bunny. So once this is done, it's coming together quite nicely, as it usually does. And I'm just going to put it in a glass bowl, and I'm going to put a plate over it so it doesn't have there won't be a scum on, a skin on top of it. And I'm going to then leave it. I'm going to put my timer on for 45 minutes, and I'm going to say goodbye, and I'll see you back maybe about 10 minutes before the 45 minutes is up. So in about 35 minutes I'll do that. Okay. And all of this is going to be saved on Tunes and Wooden Spoons, so that if you can't make it today, you can make it later. And I'll address all about the yeast in the next segment of part 2 of this particular live feed. Okay. Instead of this ringing in my ear, I'm going to shut it off. There's a little slip up there. I'm just going to leave it there, put it aside, and when we come back, I'd like you to do me a favor. I'm going to pre-measure out all the next portion, and I'm going to put my timer on for 45 minutes. Let me just get my recipe. So we'll do the yeast together though when I come back. So not to worry about that. You're going to have in the bowl the porridge, as you know if you've read the recipe, but if you haven't, I'm just going to tell you here. A half a cup of brown sugar and a half cup of molasses. Now, I'll just give you a little trick. I don't know what you put your molasses in when you're measuring it out, but if you have like that spray, like pan cooking spray, I always spray my half cup measure, just one spray around, and before I put the molasses in, and then it's out really a lot easier out of the little measuring half cup. And you're going to need 3/4 cups of vegetable oil. I use vegetable oil, but you can use canola oil, as long as it's oil. Don't know about any other kinds of oil. It's up to you. And you guys are so good at improvising and putting different things in. Just go for that. And salt. And you're going to have, in another bowl, exactly 7 cups of flour. A couple of people asked, had whole wheat, or they didn't know if they had enough white or whatever. I wouldn't put all whole wheat, but you could try it. It might be a denser loaf. But I would kind of half and half, like put 4 cups of white and 3 cups of whole wheat. You could try that if you want. And I mean, people put some flaxseed in if you want, or whatever. Just play around with it. But for me, this is how I make it. And that's it. We'll deal with the yeast part when I come back. So there's 44 minutes left, and we're going to leave it there, and when we come back we'll be ready for the next part. Okay, take care, and I'll see you later. Okay, everybody, are y'all back? Hello, Gail Culligan, my niece. How are you? So there's about 3 minutes left for the porridge, but I usually start before now. When there's about 10 minutes left in the cooling off the porridge, I start my yeast, but I didn't really explain that very well. So I'm going to start the yeast now, and we'll talk about, I'm going to do the traditional yeast right now, and I'll talk to you guys about all the other kind of yeasts that there are that you're going to use if you couldn't find the traditional yeast. You know, bread machine yeast, rapid yeast, instant yeast, all of that stuff. I don't know, I seriously don't know anything about it. I'm an old-fashioned girl as far as this goes. I just go back to the old-fashioned traditional yeast. So I'm thinking, unless you know something different, that you don't put it in liquid to rise, that you are just going to put it in with your flour. So the 7 cups of flour that we pre-measured, we're going to use every single solitary morsel of that, and we're not adding any other flour. That's what we use to roll out, and every bit of it will be used up. So you're going to put your dry yeast in that. But because when I set my yeast, I put it in 1 cup of water. You're going to add a cup of water to the mixture that we have before we add the flour. So right now I'm going to do my yeast. My timer is just about to go off anyway for the porridge, and I'll start on the yeast. Okay? So it's 1 cup. If you're with me on the traditional yeast here, and you're going to do this with me, we're going to put 1 cup of lukewarm water. I'm sure you all know what lukewarm water is, and I'm just going to get it right out of the tap. And I think it's a teaspoon of sugar. Let me check my recipe. It's 1.5 teaspoons of white sugar. And my God, it's in the cupboard behind the camera. Just a second. Oh, I know what I can use. I'll use this instead of having to move the camera. You wouldn't believe how I have this rigged up. It's on top of my Cuisinart oven that's on the counter, and oh my God. And see, it's in times like this that you rely on all of these people in your family that are technically wonderful, and they know what they're doing. And here I am left to my own devices, and it's books under this and that to get the right view. I didn't like part 1. I used my iPad and I was on Wi-Fi, and I didn't like the quality. So I'm back to my little phone and on data, and hopefully the feed is a lot better and it's not kind of broken up and smudgy. So you can let me know, but hopefully it'll be okay. So I am going to put a cup of warm water in here and 1.5 teaspoons of sugar. You should kind of, when the water is hot, I'll rinse out the cup so that the cup is not so cold. Okay, cup's warmed up. So, 1 cup of water and 1.5 teaspoons of white sugar, and just stir that until the sugar is dissolved. Because I know from people who wrote me, some people are making bread for the very first time. It's so nice because that's how I learned. I learned a lot of stuff from my mother-in-law. I loved my mother-in-law, Marie, and I learned a lot from her. Actually, that's her biscuit recipe, and I use that to make my cinnamon rolls when I made them. Okay, that's nice and dissolved. And I use 1.5 tablespoons of yeast. I'm going to sprinkle that over that. And about another half. Like if you bought the traditional yeast in the 3 envelope pack, there's about 1 tablespoon, or actually I think it's only 2.5 teaspoons of yeast that are in one of those packages. So a tablespoon, 3 teaspoons make up a tablespoon. And so you'd need 1 little package and a bit of another. So anyway, I'm just gonna stir that up just a tiny bit. And I'm gonna set it over here. For 10 minutes. Oh yeah, I was going to, oh yeah, there, see, somebody just said first time, I forgot. Yes, I'll address the other yeast right now, some questions. So, I have, for anybody's watching, we pre-measured everything. From the first video, I asked everybody to pre-measure everything for this part so we can get through this and you won't be up till midnight if you're over in Scotland. 7 cups of flour. So if you have bread machine yeast, or if you have rapid yeast, or if you have instant yeast, you're going to sprinkle it in this bowl of flour that you have 7 cups of flour in right now. So go ahead, everybody, just put your yeast in there. I would use 1.5 tablespoons and put that in there and stir it up really, really good. Okay? Darn it, I had another thought there before I saw that message about the yeast. I see Rosalie McDonald, formerly from Port Hood. Hi, Rosalie. She messaged in the first video that she was off to a bad start because her canister of flour had fallen on the floor. Isn't that real? And that happens. But anyway, I was going to show you, while we're waiting for that, hopefully that's working. Sometimes yeast just doesn't work. So far, I haven't had any problem with that, but watch today, now that we're live, that I may have that problem. So I was going to show you my bread pans. See if you can see down there. So, darn it, I should have measured this. Is there a measurement on it? They're old as the hills. But anyway, I have 2, these are my smaller ones, size that you'd make, you know, a banana loaf in or whatever. So I have 2 of those, and I have, oh, they look terrible, but they're old. This is a larger one, kind of like the kind that Grandma used to make. They're larger. So I kind of make 2 buns in this one, and then I put 1 bun in each of those. So if I were just making bread, loaves of bread today, I would use this one, the big one, and the 2 small ones, and that's what you get out of this. However, today I am going to make the 1 big one and 1 of the smaller loaves, but I'm also going to have this little cookie sheet. I'm going to make a few rolls too, because the recipe, you can make it into rolls as well, and that's really, really nice. And I'm going to show you how I shape the rolls. I just make small rolls, something like a small miniature hamburger bun, just on a cookie sheet. Okay. Now, there's probably lots of cooks out there that don't even own a bread pan, and if you, whatever you have at home, use it. Whatever vessel you can put it on, you know. The idea of the bread pans, it's got high sides, and the bread will raise up like that. If you're going to put it like on a stoneware pan, or if you're going to put it like, I don't know what else you put it in, but anyway, it won't rise up so much, but it'll spread out a bit, but it's still dandy. There's nothing wrong with that. And like if you had a square pan like that, just an 8x8 pan, you could put, you know, 2 big rolls of bread in there and make a double loaf in that pan, or use your cookie sheet, whatever you can find. Oh yeah, the yeast is working. I was a little worried there because it was kind of not doing so good. So I have a top fan, and his name is Brennan McDonald. Hi. So, yeah. Yes, Brennan, thank you for that reminder. My kids are keeping me in line. So, you guys that put the yeast in your flour, so you're not using the traditional yeast method with the cup of water, and you put your tablespoon and a half of yeast in your bowl of flour, so you're missing that extra cup of water that we would have used, the liquid that we used for me setting the yeast. So you're going to add a cup of water in your bowl, okay? Yes, Jennifer. The yeast doesn't get a chance to get old in your house. I believe it. Hi, Jennifer Williams. That's an awesome fiddle player right there. Just great music. So I was wondering, you know, I was going to talk to you. I have about 5 minutes left. Yeah, I'll show you that. Hold on a second. I keep flipping. Oh, glory be. I don't want to move the yeast over to you, so I'm going to unhook my phone here. I'm scared it's going to go dead. So as the yeast is working, God, can you see that? See, there's a little bit of foam starting on the top. Are you seeing that okay? And right now there's about a half an inch of foam on there, and that means it is working. That means the sugar and the yeast are working. Yes, if the water you're adding, yes, please. You want to add warm water when we do that, okay? But I'll address that. But what I was going to say, I'm trying to check for messages there. So, and there's anybody, chip in anybody. I know Danette, my cousin Danette in Fort Francis, I know she was answering some questions when we were making the cookies last week, or the cinnamon rolls, I forget. Anybody cut in. If I miss a question, Arlene, I do not keep my yeast in the fridge. No, I don't. Which brings me to another idea. We have oil that we're going to be adding. A lot of people that I know keep their oil in the fridge. I didn't even know that you should be doing that, but apparently that's the way you should store your vegetable oil, and that it does have an expiry date. And I know that because I had some oil, this is years and years ago, and I was thinking, I opened it and I was thinking, something's not right. I didn't know it expired. Whatever, but anyway. Yes. Well, you shouldn't be preheating your oven just yet, but I would keep my yeast just away from drafts and whatever. That's what you should be doing with your dough. Just keep it in a nice warm kitchen and away from the open door and letting cold air in, you know. Now, I had a thought before that I was going to share with you, and I forget it already. That's my memory. I know what it was. Somebody asked about my pans. Okay, so how do I grease my pans? Long ago, I used to just take a bunch of shortening and I would rub up and down and around and all over, and that's how I greased my pan. But now what I do is I spray my my loaf pans just a little bit all the way around, and you know my love of parchment paper. I cut a nice piece of parchment paper, not just the width of the pan, no wider. You don't want that because it'll interfere with the shape of the loaf. And I drape it over the two sides, and it's just awesome for getting the loaf out and putting it on your rack. So that's what I do. I spray it with cooking spray, and then I let the parchment paper kind of stick to that when I'm laying it in, but not the width not wider than the width of the pan. But you don't have to do that now. We'll deal with that the next time. Ah, somebody proofs their yeast. I didn't see the name on top of the stove and puts the vent light on. Okay. I'm sure you guys are seeing all of those messages too, but all these little tips and stuff that we need to be sharing with one another. And I think it's just great. All right. I'm going to take you over once again. Darlene there was asking about what it looks like when it's proofed. I'm using these terms and I just hope, but see, there's a nice, can you see that? I can't see that. There's about 15 seconds left. There now. Honest to God, yes, somebody's just mentioning cinnamon rolls there. I swear to God, there was an awful lot of cinnamon rolls being made. Arlene is a little bit behind. Well, that's all right. You can catch up on the replay if necessary. So, our yeast is nice and ready. It's got a good inch top on it there, if you can see that. All right. So now, wooden spoon. This poor wooden spoon. Look at my wooden spoon. I left it too close to the burner one time, years ago. It's still good. Still good. So I'm going to put the nice lukewarm porridge in the bowl. You can put your finger on that and you can feel that it's lukewarm. And just stir it around to mix it up. I have no surprise singers for you today, sorry. Just gonna listen to some fiddle music on there. All right, everybody okay? So now, I'm gonna do this in order. You're gonna add your pre-measured half cup of brown sugar. Pop that in. And your half cup of molasses. And if you didn't hear me last week, people in Alberta, when you're buying molasses, I hope you didn't get the cooking molasses. It's not for cooking sweets. And, okay. And your 3/4 cups of vegetable oil. Any questions? No questions? And your teaspoon of salt. So you're going to mix that all up. The molasses smells so good. Kevin Pellerin, hello Kevin. He's a good friend of my son's and he's out west. So that's what it looks like before I spill it out of the bowl. I'm just seeing the comments there. All right. And now you're just gonna add the yeast. And all of you people who are not using traditional yeast, this is where you would add a 1 cup of lukewarm water, okay? Stir that around. And if everything is lukewarm, the yeast will be wonderful. All right. It's lovely. Okay. Now, if you have a whisk, great. If you don't, it's no problem. But when I start adding the flour, I just like to use the whisk because really this part of it there used to be a time when you have to knead and knead and knead and knead and knead the bread, and that might be all well and good, but honestly, you don't really have to do a lot of that. But if you do a lot of this mixing right now and use your whisk, it's great. So what I'm going to do is my flour and your flour, whether you have your yeast in your flour or not, I'd put around 2 cups in, whatever, just a big spill of flour like that. And I would just stir it with the whisk or with your wooden spoon. You know, the reason I'm using a whisk, you know, sometimes when you're just stirring flour into the liquid, you could get pockets of flour lumps. You don't want that. And I just use a whisk. And I'm kind of, you're kneading it in liquid form. Perfect. Okay. Gonna add a little more. Probably another couple of cups. There we go. And if you're using a whisk, this is the hard part because the dough is all caught in between, but just use your fingers. I did wash my hands, and I never told you guys that, but I washed my hands before I started this part, and I should have done that with you, but I know you guys are taking all precautions. Okay. So shake in maybe another cup of flour, and with your wooden spoon, stir that up. You can see it's starting to really form a nice dough. Okay. I hope everybody's at the same place. I know Arlene Kelly was lagging behind there, she said, but hopefully you're caught up. So now what I'm going to do, I am going to put all of my flour just to the side here on the counter, right on my counter. And I'm going to put some flour on my counter. Can you all see that? Still fairly sticky. And we'll use that same cleaning technique that I used with the cinnamon rolls and clean my bowl with flour so that you're not having that sticky, doughy stuff. And with your wooden spoon, with the whisk, it'll work. So now take some of that flour and sprinkle it over the top. And this is how I start my kneading. I'm pushing down with my fingers. That's what I do. I don't even know if that's right, but that's what I do, and they turn out okay. Can you all see that? I know sometimes there's children that are making this too. So now I would sprinkle a little bit more flour on that and really get in there with your fingers. Pretty soon you'll do the actual kneading, okay? I think we're ready to start like folding over. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take from the back, get your fingers underneath, and roll it over like that. Roll it all over like that. and just kind of push down with your heel for starters. As long as it's not sticky. There's no need for it to be sticky. We're going to be using all of that flour. Okay, now on the right hand side, fold it over again. All right. And on the left hand side, roll it over again. Okay, and on the bottom, roll it up on top and just start pushing down. Now I would sprinkle a little bit more flour. And now we're going to do the kneading, okay? But you're going to just push that stuff down right now so that it's not sticky. Okay, now fold over from the top, kind of over in half, and using the heels off your hands, you're going to push down with your heels. Push down like a couple of times. Then you're going to take the whole thing, flip it around. It'll be sticky on the bottom. Don't worry about that. You're going to do the same thing again. Take it from the top, fold it all the way over. If it's sticky, put some flour on it, which mine is sticky, and fold it over again. And you're going to rock it back and forth like that. And if it's sticky, make sure you add the flour, because sometimes if the kids are making it, it's kind of yucky. But just use your two heels of your hand to do that. And just turn it, then fold it over, and just use the heels of your hand to do that. And now you're just going to turn it, use your heels, turn it, use your heels, add some more flour on the bottom there. It's getting sticky. Right? Turn, fold over. Because you're going to continue doing this like this. Heels, turn, fold over, and heels, okay? And we're going to be using every bit of this flour, okay? And my music stopped. And my hands are full of dough, and I can't go back and restart it. So you're going to have to listen to me. Okay? Turn, heels. How's everybody doing? You can't use your phone because your hands are full of dough, right? Starting to get sticky again. Now I'm going to put all of mine over here. And when that is all done, we're done, okay? Hi, Patty Millet. How are you doing? I hope you're feeling better and improving every day. And Mabu can't wait to have you back. Turn, use your heels, okay? Probably sing a good Gaelic song to this and get a rhythm going. A Romanian boy, a Romanian boy. I don't know. But you need to put camera down to show more of the counter so you can watch you knead. Okay, hold on a second. Is that better? I've got flour all over my camera. Can you see that better? Oh my God, some people are just watching this for fun. Imagine. Okay. So it's kind of 2 or 3 and turn, and your heels in there. So there's only a little bit time left. We'll use up every bit of the flour that's on there. Don't add any more flour. Like a milling frolic is right. And you know what? I'm sure that would have happened in the old kitchens here in Cape Breton. Later, when we have lots of time to visit and talk, I'll tell you a little bit about Cape Breton because some people have been asking about it. Okay, now it's starting to get sticky again and we have no flour left. So, that's what you should... Okay. That's what you should have at the end of your kneading. So if you're still catching up, okay, can you see that? Push it over here a little bit. So right now, I am going to grab some flour here. Forgot to take a little bit extra out. I'm going to sprinkle a little flour in here and on my spoon because I use the same bowl to raise my bread, okay? So you're just going to put flour all over the doughy parts and clean off your spoon. And I'll do that after, because that's going to take a lot longer. I'm just going to rub really hard the bowl to pick up any of that old dough. And then your bowl will be flour clean. Works on your hands too. Okay. And clean your bowl out with nice hot water. Okay, so if you still have your oil close by, you can either, wipe it around with some shortening or even the spray stuff is fine too, but I just use some vegetable oil and I just put some on my fingers and I wipe it around. I have a little dish here with oil in it and I'll go around the bowl. And then I'll put a little bit on top of this. And I'll put it in the bowl. Just put a little bit more around. Now don't be shy when you get it in the bowl, just push it down so that it's evenly down there. That's not going to hurt it. Like that. I'm going to take you with me. I got to wash my hands again. So I hope you're all at the same point as I am. Any questions? Okay. I'm going to take you with me over to where I usually put it. Are you with me? I usually take a dish towel and I just lay it on the counter and put my bowl on top of that. And then I put saran wrap, plastic wrap, over it all. I used to just put like a piece of wax paper and then a dish towel on top of that, because what Mama used to do. But Danang is white and Mabu suggested that that would be a good thing to do, and that's how he makes tons of bread. And so I started doing that too. And you know what? It does. It just, I don't know if it just captures the warmth in there or not. So I just have my saran wrap under the counter, so I'm just gonna pull it down. I'm just gonna kind of loosely tuck it in underneath the rim of my bowl here. And it's on the other side. And that's it. Okay, so anyway, that's it for this stage. So because we're making brown bread, because of the molasses and the brown sugar, I guess, the content, you know what, I'm no expert, but say if I was making white bread, I would only let it rise for 1 hour. But because it's brown bread and it's got the molasses in it, whatever, it takes longer for this stage. So we're going to put this on to raise for 1.5 hours. So we will catch you in 1.5 hours and we'll be ready to pan. What I'll do though when we're ready to pan, I won't pre-prep my pans. I'll do it along with you so you can see what I do. And then I'll show you how to form the loaf of bread, and I'm going to make a few rolls too. And if you want to make the whole thing of rolls, I think you'll get like 2 cookie sheets full of rolls if you make them, if I'm not mistaken. So hi Kelly Jean, that's my daughter in Herring Cove, and she's due in like 3.5 weeks. So excited. Okay people, set your timer for 1.5 hours. I'll try to come online but 5 minutes before that's up, and you'll just hear some tunes so that everybody can log in and everybody can be ready, and we'll go from there and we'll see how this has raised up. Okay, thanks for watching guys, and we'll see you in 1.5 hours. Bye. Hello. How's everybody doing? I hope that your bread is all raised and we're ready to pan. I'm going to bring mine over here so you can see it. It's up almost close to the top of the pan. So I'm going to take the plastic wrap off, but we're going to reuse the plastic wrap, so don't scrunch it up. Save it if you use plastic wrap. All right, looks good. I'll punch it down a little bit and just put it out. I'm just going to turn that down a little. I'll tell you about that CD in a minute. So there's your perfectly formed bread dough ready to pan. So we're going to get the pan ready first. And so I'm going to use a regular size loaf pan and a smaller one. And I'm going to make a few rolls too out of the dough. So the first thing I'm going to do is you can wipe yours with whatever you use to grease your pan. I just spray this, okay? Just a little bit, because you're going to have parchment paper in it. It's more or less for sticking the parchment paper on, I guess. Okay, that's it. And for the parchment paper, I just make it about the width. Doesn't even have to be as wide. And if it tears on you, like mine half of the time does, it's okay. I made it too wide, and I don't want that, so I'm just going to fix it up with the scissors. Just going to put it down into the pan, flatten it out, and let it hang over the sides, okay? Just like that, okay? Too wide again. When you're taking the loaves out of the pan, they should just come out nicely anyway, but it's just nice that you can just lift this out. And I'm just going to put a little piece on the cookie sheet. If you're going to make some rolls, I am. I don't like mine hanging over the cookie sheet, so I usually fold it up so that it fits nicely. If you don't have parchment paper, you don't have parchment paper. That's all there is to it. All right. So put the little one, I'm going to start with the little one first. So this is what I usually would do. I would cut it in threes. I'm just going to cut a piece off like that. That's for the smaller loaf. I'll just put it over there. And same off the other end. If you're just going to have to judge it. It's too hard to know exactly how much. And I'll put that one over there on the counter. Now this one I will use for to make the larger loaf. I'm just going to cut it in half so I have two buns. I still have my little bowl of oil. I'm just going to put some of that on my hands. I'm going to pick this up. And I'm going to fold it under and fold it under on all sides. Keep tucking it under. Tucking it under. Kind of bring your hands together at the bottom and kind of squeeze at the bottom. Like that. I think that's plenty. Okay. So that's 1/2 of the big loaf. Oh God, I made the big loaf. Sorry, I said I was going to start with the small one, but I didn't. So the big loaf, I'm just going to place it in here. I know somebody asked a question there. I missed it. I apologize. If you want to ask again, I'll try to watch. Okay. So I'm just going to do that again. Fold it underneath like that. Putting your hands together like at the bottom, like kind of in a V. You're like a V. And you're going like this, and going like this, and like this, going all the way around. And bringing your hands together and the dough together at the bottom, okay? That's all you have to do, and that's it. Put that in there. Okay, that's going to be the larger loaf. Okay, I'm just going to put it over on top of the tea towel there. And then we're going to take one more. We're going to make this smaller loaf this time. Just put the oil on your hands. This one you kind of want a little longer instead of round, right? You're going to be folding. You're going to be folding under, again with your hands close together at the bottom. Kind of making it longer like that, right? And if you're putting yours on a stoneware or on cookie sheet, you're probably going to make it somewhat this size because it's going to, hi Brody, oh that's the boy that made me a grandma. He just sent me a text. You're doing great, Grandma. He's like 21. Oh, my Lord. Hard to believe, and I just love them all. So there we go. And I'm going to put that in this loaf pan. Don't be worried if you make a dent in it or whatever. It'll be fine. See? It's going to be one. Now, we're just going to make, I'm just going to show how I make my rolls. There's a couple of ways of making rolls, or you can just make another loaf, whatever you want to do. But anyway, with what's left here, I'm just going to make a couple of rolls. I just make the pan rolls, like the small hamburger buns style. And I have them touching so that they're soft on the sides when you take them out. Or you can make pan rolls, which are in like an 8x8 pan, and they're kind of squashed in there and they're really soft right up to the top. Or you can make them in a muffin tin. And so I'm just going to take some, it's going to be hard to tell you how big, but about this size. So if I was making it in a muffin tin, I'd probably take that much, but then cut it in half and make 2 little balls and put it in each muffin tin. I mean, grease it first. And they raise up really nice, and my kids call them bum rolls because that kind of looks like a bum when it's raised up. So this is the size that I make. And yes, you can slap it. You can slap it to get the bubbles out. If you have any bubbles, they're usually near the top as you're folding it over, and just squash them down, and that'll be fine. So I'm going to take a little oil and just rub it. And I'm going to do the same thing, but tinier. You're using your fingers more, and I've kind of put it in the palm of my hand and fold it under until it's nice and round. You don't want to see any creases or anything. If you do, it's fine. It's your first time. And that's what it looks like. And I'll just put that on the pan. And we're going to make another one just about that size. Oh, listen to this. I put another CD on. One of my favorites. I have a lot of favorites. And they are the McNeil sisters from Mabu, formerly from over Iona Way, and they're 5 young sisters. They're teenagers. The oldest has graduated, I believe, but they put out this CD called Nick Neil. Nick means, I guess it means daughter of Neil, or McNeil. Their dad is an amazing piper, Paul McNeil, just whatever, fluent Gaelic speaker. And his wife, mom, is Tracy McNeil, and Tracy Dares McNeil, phenomenal accompanist and piano player, just beautiful. So anyway, that's one of my favorite CDs. Like, these kids are singing Gaelic on there, singing English, playing fiddle, step dancing. They can just do it all, and they're young, and they're so professional at such a young age. So that's another CD that if you love music like that, you go to that Celtic Music Interpretive Center website from Juddick. You don't even have to say that it's Juddick, just Celtic Music Interpretive Center, and go to their online store. I'm sure they'd love to have the sales, and I bet you that CD is on there, as well as many, many other favorites. So I have that just slicing touching, and I'll show you that in a second. This video isn't going to take very, very long, but I have to tell you a funny story. So you all know that Andrea Beaton was online the other night, and she was making apple cake, her grandmother's. And so anyway, Andrea is making the bread along with me today. Well, in true Andrea style, Andrea didn't read the whole recipe ahead of time. So she's online, or she's following me along in the live stream. And Andrea has a live concert. She's live streaming tonight with Tracy Dares McNeil at 6 p.m. our time. I don't know where the bread's going to be, but poor Hans is going to have to pick up the ball there and cook it for her. She sent me a text to say, oh my God, I didn't realize. But on to the music. That's going to be phenomenal. So find Andrea Beaton. I don't know what it says. It might say Andrea Beaton musician or fiddler or whatever. Find her, and she'll be live at 6 p.m. And let's hope that her dear Hans can cook the bread for her. And she's going to be online tomorrow at 2 p.m. Making her millionaire shortbread squares. And they're so delicious. I mean, you can't go wrong with shaping the rolls. Don't worry about it. If they're, sometimes first timers, you're leaving folds like that and they raise like that. So what? They taste delicious. But after a while, the best way to get rid of those little pieces is just to kind of fold them under. Okay? I also want to mention something else. So as many of you know, you're getting to know all about my family and where they are and where they live and what they do and all that stuff. Well, my daughter Tammy in Fort McMurray, she, during the first live feed, it's Andrea E. Beaton. Thanks, Elizabeth. Elizabeth Lawrence just told me that that's what you look for Andrea's live feed at 6. But anyway, Tammy's many wonderful friends out in Fort McMurray. Well, what a great place. It really is a good place, and sometimes people just kind of crap on it, and it's not like that at all. It's a beautiful community, and it's young, vibrant people, and they're such good friends. Anyway, her friend, what's his name? God, I think it's Kevin Curry. I hope it's Kevin Curry. he did up a little thing using what he found on my Facebook page, Tunes and Wooden Spoons, and he created this for today's show. Can you all see that? Stay home. Bake today, homemade brown bread. Today at 2. It's frigging delicious. Isn't that good? And he even got the, oh my God, these creative people. But thank you, Kevin. Tammy, if he's not watching, tell him thank you. Okay, we just have a couple more, and then we'll leave this be and let it raise for 1 hour. So I think I'll get a couple more. It might be a little bit bigger than the rest of them. And we'll let these rise for 1 hour. And I can put them all in together. I'm sure you can too in your oven. And before we come back live in an hour, about 15 minutes before, in about 45 minutes, I want you to turn your oven to 325 so that it's all ready to put in the oven, okay? Okay. Oh, who's that? Patricia. Patricia, your niece told me about your stream. Which niece? Hi, Charlotte. That's my uncle's wife out in Edmonton. Love to you. Okay, I'm going to put this over here. Let me just dry off my hands here and take you with me. See what I'm doing? So, can you see the rolls? Those darn comments are coming up and I'm just not aiming this the right way. There are the rolls. And there is the bread. Alrighty. So, people, what I'm going to do, that's saran wrap. I'm going to reuse it. There now. So, we're all set. Oh, Amanda's. Oh, I love you, Amanda. Amanda is my niece in Windsor, Ontario. And she is my late brother's daughter. She was only a little 3-year-old, I guess, when he passed away in an industrial accident. And those kids, 3 of them, all under 5, just have a special spot in my heart. So anyway, thanks for watching, you guys. And there's Shayla. Hi, Shayla. And that's Brody's girlfriend out in Fort McMurray. So set your timer for 1 hour, but remember to preheat your oven in 45 minutes so that it's ready to go when we come back. So I'll see you later, guys. Bye. Hello. How you doing? I'm seeing a lot of sunshine or whatever coming in on me, and that's a good thing. So the bread has been raising for 1 hour and the rolls, and I hope everybody's is looking good and the other kind of yeast is working well for you. All we can do is give it a go. So for this portion, I'm going to stay live until everything comes out of the oven. So probably not going to be in front of the camera for all that time. You'll just have to listen to my music. But I had to make a correction, and leave it to me to make a freaking mistake. Kevin Curry, shout out to you wherever you are. I don't know if you're on Cape Breton, I don't know, whatever, but you're definitely not in Fort McMurray. And the reason that I said you were in Fort McMurray, you see, I have, my daughter is one of the editors on my Tunes and Wooden Spoons page, because it was getting overwhelming with lots of comments, and I wanted to get back to everybody, of course. So anyway, before the whole episode here today started, she was checking some of the messages, and she saw that one, and she thought, oh, Mom really needs to see this. And so, of course, in my rush, I got it all mixed up, and I assigned Kevin Curry to be from Fort McMurray. That rhymes. So Kevin, or whoever you are and wherever you are, thank you for that graphic that you made up for me. I just love it. That was really nice of you, and sorry for hanging your hat in Fort Mac. Okay, so here we go. My oven is all preheated. I'm sure yours is too. So these are the rolls. Now the rolls, save your saran wrap. You'll need that later. The rolls take 30 minutes in 325. So putting them in. And the bread, take it off carefully so it doesn't stick. Save your saran wrap. Okay, it's raised up really nicely. And the single one, see that? So these are going to go in for 45 minutes. I'll set my timer for 30, and then I'll set it for another 15 after I take the rolls out. Well, holy smokes, it was a busy day. And the reason I'm saving the plastic is, if you like this, when I take mine out of the oven and put them on the cooling rack, I dip this in my butter dish, real butter, and I rub it over the top of the rolls and the loaves. Now, you may not want to do that, that may be not your preference, and you'll just have a harder crust on the top. And if you like it like that, that's up to you. But the butter, it looks nice and shiny, and it looks so good. So it's your own preference. And if I wasn't putting butter on it, when I started raising it, I was going to say that I would sprinkle a little flaxseed on the top, or just some rolled oats, just a little, to give it a little, flair. And then it's kind of hard to put butter on when that's coming out of the oven, because it'll be dropping off it, right? So you're stuck with me while these are cooking. I'm going to put the kettle on, and you guys don't have to stick around with me at all. But if you want to, you can stay with me. And I'm going to have tea. And I'm probably going to have a roll with you so you can see them. I was going to mention again, I was talking to the sweetest person, Brenna, who makes these aprons. Cape Breton crew. And she's heard from a few of you, and she's placed a new order in. And her name, you can Google her as Miss Brenna. But, oh my gosh, I wrote it down somewhere, what it's called. I think it's ilovecapebreton.ca, not .com, .ca. Let me see. Yes, ilovecapebreton.ca. If you wanted to support Brenna and get an apron from Cape Breton. And she's actually she's designed a little card with my cinnamon roll recipe on it, and whoever buys an apron gets a nice little recipe in the pocket. And that's really, really sweet. And of course, that brought to mind somebody else from Port Hood. Debbie McDonald from Port Hood was in MasterChef Canada a few years ago, and she made aprons with the Cape Breton on it as well, but in Cape Breton tartan. And I have one. I'm just going to show it to you. Scared I'm going to lose this. Can you see that? And she'll put the heart on the apron wherever you want it to be. And mine is in Port Hood. And Mabu. I was born and raised in Mabu. And so anyway, to find her aprons, she has a Facebook page called Rook the Cook. That's ROOK. When she used to play ball as a young girl, she was called the Rookie, and that's where she got that handle. So she's Rook the Cook. And so anyway, that's just a couple of options for you if you like those aprons. I'm just going to turn the music down a little bit here. Sorry, I have to walk around with you. Okay. So, we have a little time on our hands. The kettle is trying to boil. See if I can get you in a better location here where this window light is not messing us up. Okay, how is that? Is that okay? All right. It is what it is, so however it is, it's going to stay that way. Oh, you are welcome, Brenna. So, anyway, I've had, God, so many. Okay. Like I said, you can leave now if you want to and just go on merry way. Don't feel like you have to stay with me. You can choose that yourself. But I just want to have a visit now. I want to sit down and have a visit with you. We don't see very many people these days. So I was trying to think of what should I talk about? Take a little time to reflect on everything that's happening these days. And then I was getting a lot of messages on my own personal page, just private messages, and people had befriended me, and sometimes I was really, really worried about, I'm accepting these friends, and God, are some of them going to be scammers? And sure enough, that happened. No sooner had I accepted this one friendship when my phone started ringing, a video chat from Poland. Well, Mother of God, it didn't take long shutting that down and blocking that name. So I'm just going on blind trust that the word is getting out there to everybody who wants to be my friend. But you don't have to be my friend. You can just go to Tunes and Wooden Spoons and watch from there. You don't have to be my friend to watch. So Anyway, just want to clarify that if you want to pass that word along. And so anyway, there are a lot of people that are watching from around here, around Port Hood, Malbourne, Judic, and Port Hawkesbury, and all the places in Shetty Camp, Inverness, and Margaree, and Wakagama, all the beautiful places. But there are people from a lot of other places worldwide. It's amazing to hear from them, and they just happened on the cinnamon rolls video, and just kind of one thing led to another. And I just thought, well, my gosh, they want to know, who are you, and where is this Cape Breton, So I thought, well, I'm going to tell them about where I'm from. And if you'd ever want to come to visit our beautiful province, our beautiful island, so please bear with me, everybody who knows where we are, but I am going to just say a few things about who we are and where we're from. And because as soon as we go to a square dance and we're dancing with somebody and you find out, oh, who are you? Where are you from? When are you going back? It's just, we love when people come to visit. And so I'd just like to tell you about Nova Scotia. It's absolutely most beautiful province on the east coast of Canada. And I'm proud to be from the northernmost part. I'm from Cape Breton Island, which is attached to the mainland of Nova Scotia by a causeway that was built in the 50s. And Nova Scotia itself, well, if it's not 1 million people, it's darn near. It's definitely close to 1 million people that live here. And Cape Breton Island has about 130,000 people living on the island. A lot of them, of course, are concentrated on the industrial side of Cape Breton, which where the city of Sydney is. And there are 4 counties that make up Cape Breton Island. There's Inverness County, where I'm from, Victoria County, and Richmond County, and Cape Breton County. And everybody has something beautiful to offer on our island. Just the beauty is beyond compare to me, but I'm from here. But I live on the western coast of Cape Breton Island, and it's a coast from the time you get off the causeway, just about if you take the scenic route down Cayley Trail, you've got the ocean most of the time, the Atlantic Ocean out there, and it's just absolutely beautiful. Sometimes we just have to appreciate, love where you live, and make a point of going to visit those beautiful places that we have to see. And on the west coast of Cape Breton Island, it's dotted with small communities, small villages, and beautiful. Each one has something special to offer. And, each village is maybe got about 1,000 people, or in the larger ones, there might be 1,500 on any given day. But in the summertime, we pretty much sink the island, because there are Cape Bretoners all over the world that want to be home, and there are people who have found out about Cape Breton, and they want to come and see us here. So come to our province and come to our island, and we'd love to have you. And God knows, you might even bump into me somewhere, and we can have a real cup of tea together. Anyway, I wanted to say about our island, or even about Nova Scotia. Thousands and thousands of years it was the Mi'kmaq people that lived here, and it was their province and their lands. And
then John Cabot came, and the Europeans came, and the Loyalists, and the French, and then the Loyalists, and then the Scottish and the Irish. They all came and they settled here. There was a huge bunch of people from, especially Scotland, because I'm descendant from my people came here in 1835 from Scotland. And as a descendant of those that emigrated, I am known as a Gael, Gael, because I'm a descendant of those immigrants. You know, I have a lot of Scottish culture in me, and I recognize that as having been taken over from Scotland when they came here. And when my forefathers came in around 1835, settled here, and on both sides of my family, I'm Scottish immigrants from way back, on both sides, maternal and paternal. And when they came and settled here, they brought with them their language, their Gaelic language, still spoken in some homes today. And, you know, there are those who are trying very hard and wonderfully well to keep it going. We have the Gaelic College over in Victoria County. It's just exceptional. And so they brought their Gaelic language, but part of that was also their fiddle music and their Gaelic songs, their Gaelic stories, you know, their step dancing, and there was Highland dancing. There was just so much that came with them. And they settled along the shores of, you know, in PEI, in New Brunswick, but, you know, a lot in the northeastern part of Nova Scotia. And that culture is so alive and well today. But I think my own feelings are that all of this culture that came here and when they settled here, they stayed pretty much in these smaller communities on the rugged coast on our side of the island and in through the mid part of in Iona and in mid Cape Breton, and okay, they're all over the place, and there's different dialects of the Gaelic language in those different places, but we it all stayed alive here for so many years because there was no external influences, so it stayed very pure from the people that brought it over here. And so I'm very, very, very proud of that ancestry that I have, you know. And I have a family tree that you would not believe how far back it goes, and that's kudos to my brother in Michigan, Romeo, Michigan. Hi, Ellie Grady and Rita. and he has a genealogical program there, and he has got about 70,000 names in there. Every time somebody dies and their obituary's in the paper, sometimes he'll call and say, well, who is that person and who are they related to? And he has that all inputted into this program that he has. So we know who we are, and I think it's so important to know who you are and be proud of the people that came before you. And I just wanted to tell you all about that and who has settled here. And I mean, thanks to so many who paved the way to where we are today. But the other thing that I'd like to say is, so that's Nova Scotia and Cape Breton, and but what about me? They want to know who do I think I am? And so I was born in the early 50s in Mabu, and to my wonderful parents. And you know, life happens, and sometimes sad things happen, and you just have to accept that. And my mother, her name was Margie, and she had given birth to 6 children, and one died when they were a month old, and when she had her last one, during that pregnancy, they discovered that she had cervical carcinoma, and she was only 37 years old when she died. I was 3 then when she died in 1955, and my little brother was 2. And the 3 oldest, Ellie Broderick, Bernice, and Jim Donald, were in school. I think Ellie Broderick was 9, and Bernice must have been 8, and John Donald was 6, let's say, but they were in school. And my father was not able to manage the preschoolers, so he kept the 3 oldest, and I went to a grand aunt right in Mabu, my grandmother's sister, and my brother stayed with another aunt for a little while, but then he went to live with another grand aunt. Now, the home that I went to, my grand aunt was Maggie Ann Beaton, and I lovingly called her Mama because she was my mama. And when I was about 1 year old till 3, when my mother died, I would be back and forth there while my mother was receiving treatments and also dealing with TB during that time. My God, when I think of the isolation that we're in, and I think of how isolated she was and her sisters, and it was an awful time. But so the home that I went into was full of music. Now, my mom and my dad were beautiful to dance and to sing. My mom, I guess, was a beautiful singer, and I do have 3 distinct memories of her. We can get into that, but I do remember some things, but never her face, but the rest of her. And so when I went to the Beatons' home, there was lots of music and dancing and little get-togethers there with the neighbors and fiddle player and Gaelic singers and Gaelic storytellers, and it was a wonderful home to be raised in. And they already had 6 children of their own, and the youngest was probably about 8 when I went there. And I was just like a little friendly little girl that they enjoyed having. But because of the music and the dancing, I just grabbed onto all of that. And one of their children was Minnie. And Minnie was already a very good step dancer. And so Minnie taught me everything she knew. And so did Mama. Mama was great at jigging the tunes, like that's how she jigged the tunes. Well, not like that, but a lot better than that. And I just learned. Minnie said that I learned by holding her hand. And it's the places that the good Lord puts you that change your path in life. And so I grew up step dancing as a young girl, and one thing led to another, and before you know it, there was a decline in the fiddle music around here, and there was a show on television that the Vanishing Cape Breton Fiddler. People were upset that they thought it was vanishing, and all the fiddlers came out and in full force, and so did dancing had to be taught. There was no new dancers coming up, so that's where I learned to dance. I learned to teach dancing. I had to when I started teaching dancing in Mabu, and then before too long I was teaching many, many places, and that ability has taken me so many wonderful places like Scotland and Denmark and all over California and the US and across Canada. Many years ago, I don't teach dancing anymore. Too heavy for that now. But anyway, it was a wonderful part of my life, and taught our own children to step dance, and we used to dance in concerts and things like that, and it's been a wonderful life. So you don't know, how would it be different if I had the chance? But that's who I am. And so I'm married Cecil back in the early 70s. We're celebrating our 50th wedding anniversary next year. We have had 7 beautiful children and 11 wonderful grandchildren, and just from having a large family, which I wouldn't trade for the world, I loved to bake, and loved to bake for the kids, and it's cheaper than buying a lot of stuff when you had a big family. So they learned to bake along with me, and here, when the kids, as I told you in my first video, when they went all over the place to work, like two live in Fort McMurray and one works out there in the oil sands, and then the rest of them are here in Nova Scotia. 3 are in Halifax, and then one who lives just 3 doors over from me, and he is living at home these days, where we keep the distance. But you heard him sing just last week on our little episode last week when we made the chocolate chip jumbles. But anyway, that's where I live, and this is where I love, and that's who I am. And when my daughter in Fort Mac suggested that somebody bake something, whatever, I never in a million years thought that little old me, who bakes just plain things, kind of, would ever have such an amazing outpouring from people who are enjoying just sitting at home, either watching or baking with me or baking on the replay. And I just want to thank you all for making my 2 weeks since this began just something so very, 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 very special to me. And I hope I make a difference in your life and encourage you to gather those recipes, and it's comfort. It's just comfort to be with people and enjoy a cup of tea. That's one of the traditions around here in Cape Breton, and is you just love having people drop in for a visit. Don't call first. Just drop in. If it's a bad time, well, I'll come back tomorrow. But just sit down, have a good cup of tea, and have it, gather the good china, and just enjoy one another's company. So often these days, everybody's just on their devices, and you can go to somebody's house, and everybody, the children and the mom and the dad and the grandma and the grandpa, we're all checking stuff out and just chit-chatting and doing that all over again. But it's so nice to just sit and talk to you. And I'm going to make some tea now. So I'm just going to go boil the kettle again. I boiled it, and of course it's after cooling off. I'm going to make myself a cup of tea, and I'm going to see how the rolls are doing, because they'll be finished pretty soon. So I'm going to turn up the music, and you guys listen to that for a little while, and I'll be right back with you very shortly. Here's some rolls, and here's some butter. Oh my gosh, it smells so good. So I'm gonna take them off the pan, put them on a cooling rack, and the bread is in for another 15 minutes. So I'll be back with you in a second. Okay. Now, I normally wouldn't cut open a roll this soon because they're very hot. The bread will be done in just a few minutes, but I just want you to see this. You can see the butter is melting, and I have my cheddar cheese. But more importantly, do you see this beautiful plate? This was my mom's. I have two of these plates and a matching larger one. You know, she knew that she was going to pass away, and she saved all these things for her children to have, and I proudly have it in my little tiny china cabinet. Anyway, I'm just going to taste this. It just, oh my gosh, smells so good. Can't beat that. I'm just thinking of there's quite a few of you who are trying it for the first time, making bread. So I hope that it turned out just as wonderful for you, and that your house is just smelling beautiful. That whole molasses, and it goes all through the house. It's so nice. Someone's saying, I can almost taste it and smell it. I wish you could. Wish you could be here with me and have a cup of tea with me. But I'm sure you enjoyed the music that we had on today. And the one that's my favorite, called Falcha, F-A-I-L-T-E. Don't forget to go to the the Celtic Music Interpretive Center website. If you can find, there are many Falcha ones, but this one are the airs and waltzes. If you like fiddle music and just easy listening, I just love it. And it's funny it's not worn out yet. And the other one that I played was this one, Nick Neal. And there's Gaelic songs and singing by all these teenagers. And they're the McNeil sisters from Abu. And it's just so nice to listen to. I have an old car, and I still have a CD player in it, thank God. And I have a ton of CDs in there, and I just play CDs all the time when I go back and forth to Halifax, and I have them on. And so you'll be hearing from my collection. Next week I hope to have my two nieces, Donna and Margie Beaton, redheads, if any of you know them. They've got a beautiful CD out. I don't know how, my gosh, it's been quite a few years now since I got it out. It's time for another one, Donna and Margie. Another CD. And if the oven is loaded up, should I rotate the pans away from the walls halfway through? Yeah, I would. You can turn them around. If you have more than 3 pans in the oven, if maybe you did a double batch or something like that, I would. Yeah, just in case it gets more cooked on one side than the other. But anyway, both of those CDs are probably available, and my nieces, Dawn and Margie Beaton, their CD is called A Taste of Gaelic. There's some great fiddle tunes on there, and there's actually a tune on there, Strathspey, that Dawn wrote for me. It's called Mary Janet's Strathspey, I think, or Mary Janet at Strathspey Place, but it's a Strathspey, which is the slower music played before the reel. It's like a call to dance for step dancers. So it was really, really nice visiting with you. And Cecil's been back home for a long time, but he's hidden downstairs behind closed doors and watching the horse races. And He'll be coming up for a cup of tea and a roll pretty soon. But I'm just going to go over and have a little look and check what's left. I can't, you know, when you get old, you have reading glasses and then you have distance glasses. Well, I don't have my distance glasses and I can't see the stove, see what's left in it, but must be getting close. But if you have any questions, you know, about anything that we did, you know, write me. I haven't been able to look at much of anything here. And what I'm going to do is I'll try to get back to any one of you, and maybe my daughter will help me answer you back too. And if there's anything that she can't answer, she'll tell me to look at it. And what does it take? A village to raise a child? Well, it takes all 7 children to raise their mother through this technology. And I'm just happy to be here. Okay, just hang on a second. I'm going to have another bite and another slurp of tea. A little piece of cheese. Be right back. I'm going to take you with me. It's just about cooked, just about ready. Four, three, two, one. They're ready. So if anybody in Mabu can, my brother keeps calling me. He's obviously not watching me online, but if you're hearing that phone ringing, that's what it is. And I told him I wouldn't be available till 7:30. Anyway, the bread's ready. Look at that. And there's the little one. Merciful God. That's my brother calling. Well, she's going to have to ring. So I'm going to put the butter, melt it all over the bread. Oh, that looks so good. See that? That looked amazing. This is where you lift it out with the parchment paper on both sides. Can you see all that?
I'll bring you in for a closer look in a minute. Just taking the parchment paper off. Now, it's a mortal sin to cut open a hot loaf of bread because it'll just leave a doughy end on it. So wait until it's slightly warm before you cut it. So I'm going to bring you over. All I'm seeing are comments. I hope to God I'm catching the bread and some rolls. So folks, it was a long day. You have to have a long time. If you're going to make bread, you have to be home for a long time. But what else do we have to do these days? You know, and I hope yours turns out awesome. Send me a picture. I love that. And in these days, it's a different world. But we can have a happy Sunday afternoon. And don't forget to tune in tomorrow on Andrea E. Beaton, on her Facebook page. She's going to make these millionaire squares. I don't know what she needs. She'll probably post something on tunes and wooden spoons. And, you'll get the recipe there. I have no idea what's in them, but there's butter and there's flour and there's chocolate chips probably. And I don't know how maybe it's Eagle brand milk with something and that makes the caramel part. But anyway, I bet you it'll be good. But what I wanted to say is our premier of our province, Stephen McNeil, he's getting cross at people that are still refusing to stay at home and whatever. And the other day, I think it was yesterday or the day before yesterday, in release, he ended it with, "Stay the blazes home." That's what he said. So stay the blazes home, people. And my son Mitchell and his wife Laura, they have 3 children, 3 little boys, and the youngest is Asher, and he's 5 months old. And Mitchell and Laura have this little board with all these letters, and they have a different saying on it on their counter all the time. So they took a picture of the baby, and it says, "Stay the blazes home." I thought that was just a great way to end today's session. And anyway, thanks for the visit, and I hope you enjoyed it. And I'll post and pin to the top of my page what you'll need for next Sunday's Easter treat called Crispy Crunch Squares. So watch for that. Take care of yourselves. Love one another. I love you. Bye-bye.